everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here and talk to you about what matters most, I think, for us as human beings is connecting with others. I mean, from the moment we are born, babies, if we don't connect with them, if there's no touch, if there's no connection, what happens to them? They die. So really, I think to me, connection is one of the most important things that we all have to nourish and nurture as we grow through life. So it's a pleasure, and I'm very excited today because I get to teach what I want to learn. I think connection is really, really important. It's a topic that never grows old. All right, so here are some of the things that I'm hoping to cover today. So obviously we don't have that much time. We only have 45 minutes, but I would like to touch upon at least some of the topics that I think are most relevant to the topic of connection and intimacy. And hopefully we'll have some interesting conversations at the end of all this. So I'll talk to you about domains of interventions. I'll talk to you about the mind-body connection, things that are in the outer environment and perhaps sometimes we can't change. But I will particularly focus on things that we can change and rely within us. We'll talk about cognitive reframing a little bit, attitudes, mindfulness, meditation, and also towards talking about developing a better relationship with our understanding of what sex and intimacy are, but also a better relationship with ourselves as they're intimately connected. I'll give you some examples of exercise that you can engage in to reach better connection and a sense of intimacy with your partner. And then at the end, I'll take some questions. Okay, so let's get going. So there are many ways in which you can intervene and change situations in your life with respect to intimacy and connection. Those domains of interventions are, some of them are in the world, right? So they have to do perhaps with your environment, your habits. Others are at the level of body, things like hygiene, presentation, exercise, proper nutrition, sleep and rest. And the rest of them are at the level of mind. And that's really about how we think about things, how we perceive things. Really, it is there that we can exercise a lot of control, because whereas it's much more difficult to change your environment, with your mind it's different. You can change the way you look at things, not necessarily because this action will change your environment. So changing your mind may not necessarily change your environment, but it will change your internal experience with regards to the environment. So if I go into a situation and I'm in a bad mood, chances are my inner experience is going to be negative as a result of that. But if I change that, then my inner experience will change with it, right? So how I look at things matters, and we'll talk about that. So all are important, they work together, but we have limited influence on the world and the body. We have more ability to change things at the level of mind. So we know that our brain and structures in the brain can affect our mind, right? So for better or for worse. For better, a little caffeine and you're more alert. For worse, you drink too much and you have slower reaction time. But we now are coming upon evidence, particularly from neuroscience, showing that the way we think also changes our brain. So it works both ways. So behavior can affect the way we think, but also the way we think can affect our behavior and the way we feel. And so ways in which the mind can change the brain. Here on the screen you have a study showing how through the process of meditation, you can actually reduce the amount of cortical activities in areas related to pain. So your experience of the pain, it's diminished as a result of a meditation-induced restfulness and peacefulness. Also, numerous studies now are showing that through the process of meditation, you can actually thicken your cortex and reduce normal aging, signs of aging. And an interesting fact that is being now demonstrated by science is that every thought produces form at some level or another. So what flows through our mind really sculpts our brain. So immaterial experiences leave material traces behind. A lovely experiment that I like referring to, and it's been taking place not too long ago at a school in the United States where teachers had a lot of problems with bullying, they decided to do an exercise to illustrate to people the power of words and the power of mind. And so what they did is they went to IKEA, they picked up 2 plants that looked identical. They were just as green, just as tall, just as wide. Soil was the same, and they took them and they placed them in 2 opposite sides of the school, but where they had the same lighting, just the surrounding was identical, temperature, you name it. And they asked students in the school, so they had huge problems with bullying, they asked students in the school to go to one and on a daily basis tell the plant just how beautiful the plant was, and kiss the little leaves and just show so much affection and genuine affection. Whereas to the other plant, they asked the students to be very mean to it and bully the plant and say mean things. And so what you see after a month is that the same plant, the same environmental conditions, one is thriving, the other one is dying. We're no different. So really the thoughts that we have in our mind, and usually thoughts related to ourselves, are not as positive, let's say, self-talk. Evidence shows that we're not that gentle and kind and loving towards ourselves as we are, say, towards others. So there's a lot of negative self-talk that we engage in, a great majority of us, and so we need to be more mindful about that. It's almost as if we need to develop a new relationship, and this relates to intimacy. I'll show in a second how, but we really need to develop a better relationship with ourselves and engage in more positive self-talk, because that precipitates that it's a stepping stone towards having better relationships with others. And so now, as I was mentioning, there is evidence showing that meditation increases blood flow and nutrients to active regions of the brain. And also, we're noticing with altered epigenetics, is a new field in science showing that you can actually change the expression of certain genes through your thoughts. So in other words, we're not just carried by our genes. Our environment and how we think about things really matters. All right, so let's just jump into things, shall we? All right, so you have a cancer diagnosis. So the question is, how do you experience sexual intimacy? What can you do to experience pleasure and intimacy and connection? Of course, one way to experience an orgasm and have that sense of pleasure is through masturbation. A way of improving your not just urinary function but sexual function, particularly for men affected by prostate cancer, for example, has been shown in the literature, is by doing Kegel exercises, which are pelvic floor exercises, engages the anus muscles and the floor muscles in your pelvic area, and they have been shown to really be beneficial to improving sexual function after radical prostatectomy, surgery, or radiation. Another way of experiencing sexual intimacy after a cancer diagnosis, of course, involves your partner. Use of physical and emotional intimacy to build up a relationship between the two of you through cuddling, through expression, through getting to know each other's body, like a child, curiosity, being curious about one another, and exploring one another's body and staying present while you do so. Or a medication, it's another form of dealing with erectile dysfunction. There are penile injections for, again, men affected by prostate cancer, even for a short time. So anything that you can do to trick your brain that you are, having a pleasurable experience. And I guess something to keep in mind is that, orgasm usually are not produced necessarily by the organ themselves, but by the thought that you have in your mind. So it's very, very important to, at the time that you engage in connection and sexuality with another being, that you really deplete the reservoir of distractions. One important exercise that we do in workshops with cancer patients is have a couple sit in front of each other And then ask them to connect and communicate with one another about any topic, while we have other members in the audience going behind each individual and distracting them and pretending. One is pretending that they're the cell phone, the other one is pretending that they're the kids at home with the needs that they have, the house, the mortgage, the car maintenance, work, Facebook, Twitter, for that matter. So we have so many distractions in our world. And the problem is that if we bring those problems into an act of connection, then there is no true connection that can happen. So true connection can only happen if we're fully present, if we bring our presence into the present moment, right? Because where my attention goes is where my energy goes. So if I'm in front of my partner and we're about to exchange intimacy and he's caressing my cheek, or I'm there is some attempt to connect physically and touch, and my mind is going various places, and my attention goes there, and I will not have any energy for that particular one-on-one connection. So very important to stay present and bring your whole being into the present moment and say, okay, I'm going to shut down my thinking and my neurosis in a way. We're all neurotic in some sense because we spend so much energy on so many things and so little energy inwards. And I'm going to be present here and see what's going to happen. And approach things with a curious mind, with a don't know mind, and be open to see what's going to happen. So very important to mind your mind as you engage in sexual intimacy. I cannot stress that point enough. We really can't connect with one another at a deeper level unless we deplete the distractors, and we say, okay, time out. It's time for me now. Have sex, engage in sex with or without sexual penetration. Right? Use touching. A wonderful sexual moment does not necessarily have to involve penetration. Now, the porn industry, it's a $5 or whatever $1 million industry because of mirror neurons. You see somebody else having pleasure and you're experiencing that pleasure yourself, right? So you can get so much pleasure by watching your partner experience pleasure and by being in that present moment. How many times don't you walk down the street and you see a little child laughing, or an interaction between two people laughing frantically? And what do? You start smiling. It's inevitable. Mirror neurons, they rock. Is that the same thing? Use whatever you need to use to deplete the worrying, deplete the, your attention going in a million places, and being there and really experiencing that which you want to experience. If it's intimacy and sexuality, then that's what you want. Well, be clear about that and choose that. Let go of the rest. Choose that. Right? Cuddle, explore each other's body, even in the absence of sex. I'm not sure how many of you have done meditation and mindful meditation in particular. And again, I'll be talking about this in the next 10 minutes. But there is this meditation of a raisin where everybody in the audience is given a raisin. You put it in your mouth. Well, first you just touch it and really try to feel it. And then you put it in your mouth and you gently, slowly try to break that raisin while being mindful, meaning stop the distractors, cut all the distractors, the cell phones, what I'm going to do in the next hour, email, or my next appointment at the doctor, just cut them all off. And then focus on that raisin. So the same thing with a partner. The partner becomes a raisin, as I say sometimes. So imagine your partner being a raisin. How much flavor is in one raisin? How much flavor there is in one touch, one look, one moment of silence and fullness if we are fully present, not distracted. So really, our worst enemy really is this mind of ours that tends to go frantically in a million directions. How to control it? How to free ourselves from this constant, distraction? It's a question, and at least to me personally, the answer is meditation. The answer is really exercising that muscle that says, I'm going to bring myself into the present moment. after 30 years or more of meditation now, one thing that I've learned is not the one thing that I've taken from meditation is the ability to bring my mind into the present moment. I can do that now faster than I'd say was able to do 30 years ago, although that's debatable. I'm trying to, but no, certainly, definitely faster than I was able to do, say, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? So the period of time that it takes me to come in the present moment is much faster. So you come to me and you say, Gabriela, pay attention to me. Well, I'm there. So meditation really helps you do that. It almost helps you take control over your mind and say, okay, I can do this. I am not the puppet. I'm the puppeteer. I control the puppet. I say when enough is enough and when I need to pay attention to what matters to me. So cuddling, exploring each other's bodies, even in the absence of sex, there is so much pleasure and so much richness into connecting with another being that you trust, that you love, that you care for, and that they care for you, in a touch, in a look, in a presence. Sexual penetration is wonderful, of course, but so is beautiful touch that is meant with love, with care, with kindness, with gentleness, with appreciation. And key to everything, of course, is slowing way, 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 way down. We're doing things way too fast. Those things that, concepts that we had when we were in our 20s and 30s, it's just really, no. Slowing down. The key to a wonderful sexual experience is not how quickly you get to the finish line. Think a tortoise, so someone very, very slowly. Think of a dancer that takes her gloves off and how slowly they take those gloves off. They take forever. So how do you adopt that attitude of no rush? You're going to be in the present moment and you're going to see where the next moment is going to take you. I cannot stress enough the importance of physical touch. The cuddle hormone, oxytocin, is great for babies. It helps them thrive and do well and survive and thrive. Well, that doesn't stop. We are babies for the rest of our lives. From the moment we're born until we die, we're babies. We need touch. We need to be loved. We need to be appreciated. You don't have anyone to touch. I'm a perfect example. We don't always have somebody that can touch us, no? Throughout your lives, you might be divorced. You might go from one relationship to another. Your partner could have died, could have passed, but you're alone. What do? You touch yourself. How do you do this? In many ways. You can cross your hands and put them around your neck. Anything that depicts to you internally, mentally, that you are cared for, that you are precious, just the way you are, that you matter, that your presence here is wanted by so many, but by you in particular. So physical touch is incredibly important. Touching yourself throughout the day, just as you drink plenty of fluid during the day and you feed your body food, right? And you think, hopefully, positive thoughts, so do you have to touch yourself. It's very important. It's a means of communication that says, I matter, I care, I'm precious. You can't connect with another human being at a true level unless you have learned to come to love yourself, unless you have learned to develop an intimate relationship, first and foremost, with yourself. I can't bring my whole presence and beingness into an act of connection with another being unless I know myself, unless I'm happy in my skin, unless I say Gabriela is good enough, unless I learn to speak positively to me. So oxytocin, incredibly, incredibly important. Hormone of trust, safety, bonding. I like to bring up Leonard Cohen's song, 1,000 Kisses Deep. Listen to this, guys, brilliant. You came to me this morning and you handle me like meat. You'd have to be a man to know how good that feels, how sweet. There you have it, touch. It doesn't matter how old we are. We're born sexual beings, we die sexual beings. We all want to touch. Tell me you love me, tell me I matter, tell me I care. Tell me you care about me. Right? So touch, and that kind of touch that is meant to say, you know, you and I are not that different. Go well. Oh, chat. My camera froze. Is it working? Is it working now? Allison, if so, no, not yet. Audio is fine. Huh.
Your audio is fine, Gabriela, but your camera's not working.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay, so what shall we do?
I would just keep going with your audio for now. Hopefully the camera will pick back up.
Okay. Let me try again. Just making this. Does it help?
No camera now. Let's just keep going.
Okay, let's just keep going.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No worries. Okay, so practical solutions for erectile dysfunction. Well, as I said, neurons that fire together wire together. If you can't have an erection, or if you can't, even with normal sexual organs, you can't connect with another person and be intimate and be sexual, then obviously something ought to change. You can't do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So it's time for a course alteration. Going probably from mindlessness to mindfulness would be a great start. So start a meditation practice, one that speaks to you in ways you can accept and understand. That's very important. Practice mindfulness, paying attention, being in the present moment. And most importantly, slow way, way down. Remember that where your attention goes, your energy goes, and give yourself permission to relax and be aware. Drop stress through belly breathing, keep touching yourself, and reassure yourself. Look, my partner is having a good time. I'm having a good time. Mirror neurons, as I was saying earlier, this is how the porn industry is doing so well, because people watch others that have a good time because it helps them have a good time. You know, I once had a cancer survivor that came to me and said, you know, I can't get myself to, you know, experience sexual intimacy. I'm trying, but I'm too nervous. It's been too long, and I need sort of a physical exam. Do you think I should go and buy some magazines? If magazines are going to rewire your brain or remind your brain as how it used to feel like when you had sex, when you experienced physical pleasure, go ahead. I mean, there is a lot of good taste porn these days, where people in the porn industry have realized that it is important to model not vulgar but very good sense sex, where you have two people intimately, gently, lovingly, and kindly connecting to one another in a way that perhaps it's more acceptable to some, because not everybody likes the, you know, old way of, you know, making love, or the way in which it's portrayed primarily through porn. And so some find it to be vulgar. Not everybody, but some do. Well, so the porn industry has adjusted to that, and now you have a lot of videos that are excellent examples of how to slow way down, how to bring your presence in the present moment, right? How to stay available to what the next moment brings, how to take your time caressing and exploring each other's bodies as a child who's in a playground and for the first time they're discovering new toys, right? So if that's helpful to you, then that's a way to engage in. That's something to try. Bring your attention back to the here and now. Again, I cannot stress that enough, that if you really want intimacy and connection with another being, it cannot be by you thinking of all sorts of other places and allowing your attention to be taken. Oh, camera's back, hooray! We're doing great. All right. And so your partner is in front of you right now, not tomorrow, not yesterday, not in your dreams, now. So what do? Connect. Say, you know what, I'm going to cut everybody off. You know, have you ever seen those actresses and actors where, you know, in movies sometimes, you know, they're having conversations and suddenly there is their partner approaching them or someone that they're attracted to and they're like, yeah. Well, try that. Try that. So your partner comes and, you know, touches your butt or pinches you in a gentle, nice way. It's a cue to say, I'm there, I'm here, present. So what can you do? Well, why not turn towards them and look them in the eye and cut all other distractions and just stay there. See what's going to happen in the next moment. Maybe something will happen, maybe nothing will happen, but for what's worth, they would have at least gotten a smile out of you. Just as kids playing in the ground or some people laughing on the street and you smiling at them laughing would, right? Mirror neurons. Letting go of the tendency to escape from being in the present moment. We are masters at this. I have something else to do. My goodness, I really shouldn't be doing this. I should go on my computer and search other forms of treatment, or maybe I should go and learn something more about my diagnosis of, oh my God, maybe I should read about reoccurrence. What if my cancer is going to reoccur? Well, if your cancer is going to reoccur sometimes, what difference would it make 10 minutes? The reoccurrence won't be, you know, speeded up or slowed down by 10 minutes. Right? So might as well go into direct experience beyond concepts. What does that mean? We are constantly consumed by our mind and what we think things mean, right? Or what happened in the past. Most of us see the present through the eyes of the past. So again, key element here and challenge for all of us is, how do I not see the present through the eyes of the past? How do I open myself to the present moment? And like a child, learn. Understand that words are just words. They're inherently empty. We really assign meaning to them. And so our stories in our mind, our narratives, they're really made up by us. We're socially constructed machines, really we are. We make movies all the time. I see a movie, you see a movie. And sometimes you're lost in my movie, sometimes I'm lost in your movie. So how to cut that off and just say, I don't know. Let me look at this. What does it mean? I don't know. My partner just, you know, picked me from the middle and brought me towards them. I wonder what that is. Oops, there are lips there. They're really close. Be like a child, like a scientist. I don't know. I'm just going to be here in the present moment because I trust this person, because I love this person. Right? Just be open to that experience. See, what does that feel like? Be like a child. I just got kissed. What is that like? What is that like? To be open to that kiss. What next? Enjoy your senses. Stay curious, childlike mind. If things have been very intense at home because of various reasons, try scheduling a play day. Doing something that is not scheduled. Let's go for a walk. See what we see. There's a beautiful movie out there. Let's see if I remember the name. At First Sight is about a blind man, a massage therapist, who meets this woman and they fall in love. She sees, he can't see. Beautiful story of seeing what we see. It's about this idea of exploring, seeing with new, learning how to see. We are so blinded by our minds and what we make in our minds to be reality that we forget to see. We no longer see. It's very sad. And we're prone to it. Nobody can escape the inner world that they create of concepts, of definitions. It's like a pair of glasses. It would be so nice if we could just take off. Right? It's not that easy. What I'm striving to do is keep the glasses on while with my mind try to still see. Not easy. Experience without editing, without exaggerating. So what does that mean? I'm kissed. Okay, that was amazing. Well, no, maybe it wasn't that amazing. Well, it felt good though. That's good enough. So being authentic, stay with yourself. Don't force yourself in one direction or another. Or, oh, that was embarrassing. Oh, I don't think I'm going to do that again. Well, not so fast. Again, don't edit, don't exaggerate. And awake from social conditioning. What does that mean? Awake from the glasses that the mind that you created that helps you see now. The editing, oh, this means that, and oh, this means that. No. How about nothing means anything? How about you don't know? And let me see. Let me learn about this. Engage in new activities that awake your senses. Take dance lessons. Cognitive reframing. Yes, that's a concept. Really can help you restructure the way you think about, say, intimacy or sexuality after a cancer diagnosis. So ask yourself the following question: is there another way to look at this? And if so, how else can I look at this? If my cancer diagnosis has taken away my organ and its functionality, or how can I still be me? How can I be a sexual being? That's a very good question, and many people have it. Paraplegics, what do you do? Well, is there another way to look at this? I mean, touch is still there, connection is still there. What's going to bring you an incredible experience of connection and intimacy is not going to be the sexual organ, it's going to be your mind. It's going to be how you look at it. We are not our diagnosis, we're not our hair, we're much more than that. And focusing on what we are fundamentally, that beingness can't really be touched, can it? Sure, you can stripe somebody of their social status, of their physicality, body parts, you name it. But can you touch their spirit? I dare argue you can't. And it is that which brings you, it is with that you go to have an experience and a sense of intimacy and connection. So focusing on that and saying, I'm going to bring me into this exchange and see what's going to happen. The non-defined me, right? So this is one way of reframing this. Cancer diagnosis, just another part of my evolving sexual life. The realities that change, sex changes for every man and woman throughout our life, right? So something is changing in my life, perhaps my body, perhaps the way I see things. I could choose to see my cancer as part of this progression. Okay, I like this. 7 mindful attitudes for great sexual intimacy and connection for men and women in less than ideal circumstances. Here they are. Non-judging, not judging yourself, not judging the other. Patience, take it easy. Everybody's fighting a battle. You're not alone. Beginner's mind. What does that mean? I don't know. You're kissing me. I don't know what that means. You're really touching my skin. I'm having a really hard day, but hey, I'm here. I don't know. It feels good. Doesn't feel excellent. Doesn't feel really bad. It's nice. Beginners, I don't know. Trust. You can't have intimacy. The trust is the foundation of everything from relationships to work to you name it. Trust. You have to have trust, otherwise wasting our time. Non-striving. Don't try so hard. No need. Acceptance. I accept myself just the way I am. And I accept my circumstances just the way they are. They're perfect. Nothing else to change. Letting go of expectation, letting go of what might have been, what should be. Don't shoot on yourself, as a friend of mine says. Right? So, ideal circumstances, non-ideal circumstances, the mindful attitudes for great sexual intimacy are the same for both. This is what I want to point out. It doesn't matter. We're all the same. We are so much more alike than different. It's funny. Okay. We need to develop a better, healthier, more positive relationship to sex. There's no big deal. Sex is like breathing. It's like drinking water. We make such a big fuss about it. And it's normal. We're sexual beings from the moment we're born until we die. I put on the slides there, you see a synopsis of a paper that was published where a fetus is grabbing onto their penis, and basically they're having an erection in vitro before they're born. And it's funny. It's funny for a scientist, for psychologists on top of it. It's funny. Here you are, you're having an orgasm. Yeah, you haven't even been born. And then there is a nerve at the back of your spine that you can stimulate when somebody just passed. So they're dead, but you can stimulate soon after they're dead, and you can stimulate an orgasm in the person. So what I'm trying to say is that, listen, sexuality is part of who we are. It's no different than hunger. It's no different than, right? It's controlled by the autonomic nervous system, like digestion, heart rate, sexual arousal, right? You don't need to have genitals to have an orgasm. Paraplegics have orgasm, even they don't have genitals. There are some women that if they, or people that eyebrow strokes will give them the experience of an orgasm. Or there's this evidence of a woman in the literature that every time she brushed her teeth, she had an orgasm. You would think that she would have pretty white teeth. No, she doesn't. At least her doctor thought. But so it's possible to. So paraplegics, oftentimes when an organ is removed very close to the proximity where the orgasm, where the organ has been removed, you have a sensation that is orgasmic-like. So. What we're trying to say, you're a sexual being from the moment we're born until we die. So let's not make a big fuss about it, and instead let's accept it and see it with the perhaps curiosity that it deserves. But as I say that we need to develop a better relationship with our understanding of what sex represents in a sexual life, a good, healthy sexual life. We also, most importantly, need to develop a healthier and more positive relationship to our sense of self, seeing with mindfulness and authenticity. A great example that I like, and you'll see in a moment slides of various forms of people photographed, is try to bring to yourself a mental picture of you, and take a look at that and own that. And ask yourself, what do you see when you do that? You know, who am I? And you'll see right away that there is thinking that comes with that. Right? I'm not too tall. I'm perhaps too short, too tall, too left, too right, too never enough. Right? Right? Waiting to be inspired. A lot of us would say, aren't we all waiting to be inspired? If I can't have an intimate or a sexual connection because I'm waiting to be inspired. Right? Yet authenticity is so many, professionals are pointing out, and I'm just mentioning some of the books that talk about this concept of authenticity. It's very important to actually have an intimate and close relationship first with yourself before you can have it with another being. Right? So bring your whole being into the present moment. We do all sorts of meditations during workshops and retreats. I can't do one now because we're short for time. But bring your whole presence being into your mind, and try to see what you see inwards, and see if you can let go of some of those definitions that define you. Oscar Wilde said once, to define is to limit. This is what holds us back from having a true connection. So really, I think the bottom line that I'm trying to convey is that if you really want true sexual intimacy, you ought to let go of your ideas of self and embrace yourself for the perfect person that you are, to the person that I am. So we all need to accept who we are, and understand that we're no less than precious. A lovely quote by Rumi I love. It says, I'm not this hair, I'm not this skin, I'm the spirit that lives within. Take a look at those pictures. They're normal people. That's me. That's in all of those people. Until you're able to look at that and see the beauty in what you see, it's hard to connect with another being. So you want a place to start? Take a mental picture of yourself. See what you see, number one. Because seeing is all about what you see within. The world we see is the outer picture of an inward condition. Looking looking is really, or hearing or seeing is photographing with your heart. Okay? And don't be afraid to look. Look fully and see if you can declutter your mind from those preconceived ideas as to what you're looking at, and present yourself. Can you be fully in the present moment, aware of who you are, feeling complete and utterly perfect the way you are, and realizing that you are precious and you cannot be less than precious? Then bring yourself into looking at somebody's eyes and establishing intimate connection then. And you will have the greatest experience of your life. You will look forward to the next present moment, because it's all in there. Oh. Something that helps us come to the present moment is meditation. Now, I would say select a meditation, find a meditation practice that speaks to you in ways you can accept and understand. Look, there are devices now out there, like the Muse, for example. It's a headband that you can buy, and you listen to relaxation instructions or music, and that it even measures your brain waves to tell you if you're in a meditative state or not. Biofeedback is always good, because you might not know when you're in a meditative state if you've never done this sort of thing before. There are, what's the other name? BrainTap. It's another company out there. Made a note for myself. BrainTap is another company out there that has a love process meditation. Love it. It's developed by some man who's a friend of Peter Shepard. I forget right now his name. But anyways, they have all sorts of recordings that you can buy, and you listen to those meditations, and they really help you come into the present moment, get rid of the clutter in your mind. And one of the exercises, at least, that are available out there that can help is bringing to mind. You see, the mind acts in our favor. If you bring to mind experiences that you had where you felt good, it could be somebody forgave you, remembering your first kiss, when somebody held your hand for the first time and they meant it. You won some money unexpectedly. You gave a talk where you knew exactly what you were talking about. So any kind of pleasant experiences that you have, and bringing them to the present moment. So inducing yourself with that state helps. And then engaging in a practice that say, I accept myself exactly the way I am. Right? That helps us to bring your presence into the present moment. Saying things like, I accept and forgive myself exactly the way I am. And so many meditations out there. I have a meditation practice that I do in my sessions as well. Again, no time for that today. I just put some on the screen for you as an example. The Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian practice of full responsibility, reconciliation, healing, and forgiveness is beautiful, works for some people. The raisin meditation, it's a good one, because it's yet another way of practicing this muscle of how do I bring myself in the present moment fully in front of another being. De-identification exercises are great, because they teach us that we're not our emotions, we're not our thoughts, we're not our ways of being. There's so many ways of being, of who you are, who I am. I'm a professor, I'm a mom, I'm a partner, I'm a, not a sister, but I'm a daughter. We have so many roles and ways of being. We are not our roles, we're not our ways of being. We transcend all those. Right? So it's a good place to be in, and a good reminder to step into that zone of authenticity. You start entering authenticity when you start de-identifying yourself, and you're saying, I'm not that. You're a cancer survivor. Well, no, much more than that. Yeah, you are a cancer survivor. Much more than that, though. I'm a person who had a cancer diagnosis. Yeah, much more than that. Self-affirmations. May I be kind to myself in this moment? May I accept myself? Look what happened to the plants when the kids were talking. You speak nicely. Dr. Emoto did a lot of experiments with water on which you utter beautiful, precious, loving words, water on which you utter terrible words, like I hate you and I don't like you. So what happens? One develops beautiful crystals, the other one horrible crystals. We're primarily made of water. Imagine all that negative self-talk.
Why not going to sleep and perhaps kissing your partner's forehead and saying, you're precious. That frontal lobe of yours is going to make so many decisions, good decisions tomorrow. How about looking in the mirror and saying that to yourself? You are wonderful. You are wonderful. You're doing great. I love you just the way you are. Then bring that being into the bedroom. Now we're talking. Practice mindfulness. Right? And don't exaggerate feelings. Allow what you're actually feeling rather than fighting against it. You're feeling lousy, but so we all have days when we're feeling lousy. Even that's a better place to start than exaggerating. We have about 5 minutes left, I'm being told. Okay, so are close relationships after cancer diagnosis possible? Yes, they're possible. Key elements are bring your full presence into the moment, authenticity, self-seduction. Too bad I don't have time to talk about seduction because there's a lot of negative connotations about seduction, but seduction can be actually very good and a good place to ponder on it, because seduction meaning you're happy in your own skin and you're prepared to bring your whole presence in front of another being. Intimacy. It's a word that is very poorly understood by most of us. There's such thing as emotional intimacy is when I'm genuinely expressing how I feel to you. Intellectually, I'm expressing my thoughts and how I'm thinking about things. What's my schema about life? What I make of life to be. Unconditional intimacy, the kind that says, no matter what happens to you, I love you. Aesthetic intimacy, where we share arts and environments. We share what's beautiful to each other, to one another. Play intimacy, playing golf together, doing activities that are recreational together. Work, sexual intimacy, right? There are many, many types of intimacy. I have on the slides, and you have plenty of time to review them on your own at home. Who knows? At some point, we might see each other in a workshop, I hope. We get to do those exercises together, which are so much fun. Soul gazing. And I would love to explain each one of them, but I'm being told I'm short on time, so I'm going to keep going. And then if you have any questions, I can go back to those slides. But this is such a great exercise. No talking, staring in front of each other, bringing your whole presence into the present moment and being there and just looking at each other naked, inside out, in your mind primarily. Keep your clothes on. Just don't talk and look at each other for 5 minutes and speak to each other as if you're bringing your whole beingness and your whole beautiful beingness into that moment and see what happens. Unstructured activities. Find activities that you both like, that you can do together, that are not cluttered, that are not filtered through the eyes of the past. Communicate through music. That's another form of communication. You know that song that says, I came to say I love you in a song. So you can say I love you in a song. You can say I love you through a movie that you share, that you feel you are very much like the main character. Share your character and your beingness with another person. It's another cue to intimacy and sexuality through a book. And uninterrupted listening, it's something, another exercise that we teach in workshops. People love those, where you just get to talk about things that really are authentic. They're not good or bad, they're just stuff. The weekly CEO meeting, keeping on top of what's actually happening in your life rather than putting things under the rug and really talking about things. Making a list of what you're grateful for, but not just making the list or keeping a gratefulness journal, but really talking to the other person. I really appreciate how you squeezed my hand when John and I were talking at the cancer clinic today. I really appreciate it. I felt you and I were connected, and I felt you heard me and you knew what I was about to say without saying a word. Things like that. Again, that are another cue to connection. It's maintaining the connection and intimacy. Shared qualities. We have fun together when we do this. Just making a list and emphasizing the positive so that more of that will continue. Decluttering the relationship. Is there anything I can do to help you? Can I support you in any way right now? Is there anything I could say to you? Is there anything that I could surprise you with, or I want to reach you? Is there any way I can reach you? Is there any milieu that you would prefer that I communicate through to you? Break convention, stepping outside the comfort zone, asking the other person, I want to know more about you. I don't know enough about you. I want to know you. Tell me, you know, we're in this beautiful setting. We are in Sweden, and you're looking at this beautiful day outside. What do you see? I want to know what it is like to be you and see what is seeing like to you. Again, I might refer you to that movie At First Sight. There's so much wisdom in that movie. It's an old movie. You can find it for free and watch it on YouTube. Somebody asked a quick question, really wanted to know if I'm going to touch the subject of pregnancy, planned or unplanned, after cancer diagnosis. It's beyond the scope of this conversation today, but I'm happy to take questions. And I wrote a slide just for that reason. So summing up, really essential to intimacy and connection is a sense of authenticity, bringing your whole presence into the present moment, accepting yourself and embracing yourself just the way you are, and understanding that you're precious just the way you are, and having a mind that is decluttered, is not trying to get rid of the distractions and really bring yourself into the present moment, making yourself available to that connection. As if you didn't know, be childlike, are key elements of intimacy. I'm ready for questions and answers. Did I do that right, Allison? Did I?
Yes, you did, Gabriela.
Good.
Thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. I'm sorry we had to rush it a little bit at the end there, but just to remind everyone, like Gabriela said, the slides and the presentation will be available after the webinar. They'll be available to you tomorrow, and she has lots of great information on those slides that you can review. So thank you again for that excellent presentation. We have first, not a question, but a really nice statement left by someone and one of our attendees here that I wanted to share. She left it when you were talking about physical touch, especially self-touch. And she says, I picked up a great practice at yoga that I would like to share. At the end of my practice, I rub my hands together to warm my hands and then place my hands on my left breast, a great way to warm my heart. And I thought that was very nice. And just went along with your physical touch discussion that I wanted to share.
Yes, and you know what? It's interesting that you brought that up. What I like to do after my meditation or after a yoga session is, as soon as I rub my hands, I actually caress myself, and as if I want to give myself all that goodwill and spread it throughout, and just
there you go. That's perfect.
put it on.
Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that. And we have a second question from a patient who advocates with us quite often. It's a bit more of a difficult question. And I know you addressed a bit of this in your presentation. So her question is, how do you love yourself after a cancer that has disfigured your face, legs, and arm? I have trouble even looking at myself in the mirror. How would you address something like that?
That is a difficult question, because we identify so much with our physique. You know, we do. From the moment we're born, what do? We look in the mirror. This is me, this is I. And so if that gets altered, if that gets changed, all of us will have a very difficult time with. It's one thing if you're being stripped of your job or your possessions, your education, you know, say for instance, you're a doctor, you're no longer a doctor, you're a professor, you're no longer a professor, you're a CEO, you're no longer a CEO. You know, you had money and everything, and you no longer have your money. But what if you had a certain appearance and you no longer have that appearance? I mean, that's a very powerful question. We are beings of, we identify, we like to define ourselves. And there is a blessing in that, and there is a curse. And the curse comes in when something changes. Then what? Is that a showstopper? And I say to you that don't let that be a showstopper. Don't let that define you. Go back to that Rumi quote. I'm not this hair. I'm not this body. I'm the spirit that resides within. I'm still in there. A lovely story that I love to tell. May I?
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was a professor at the University of Toronto that year, and I got a call from the secretary to tell me that a colleague of mine had an accident. He hit his head, had a major traumatic brain injury, couldn't teach his classes. To make a long story short, I said, yes, I'm going to take over his class, but I wanted to talk to him because I didn't want to start teaching those students without knowing the ambiance, the flavor with which he started the class. So I asked his wife if I could get his number. I called him. He's in the ICU. Now, the man had a traumatic brain injury. It was a severe traumatic brain injury. My colleagues at work did not know that. And as soon as I pick up the phone and I start talking to him, I realize he barely can say a few words. And the first thing that crossed my mind was to say to him, Doug, I know you're still in there. And from the mumbo jumbo words that came the first time, we both started crying. He started crying instantly. I started crying with him. Why? Because there was a connection. There was a recognition that he's still in there. And by God, I pray that all of us, as life hits us, because, you know, none of us are spared. Eventually, I mean, look at our bodies. Eventually, everything decrepits. We're not going to be this always. We're not going to be our job, our, you know, the various things that we think make us. And by God, I pray when that comes, that who's around us is able to look at us and say, I know you're still in there. It's the most beautiful, profound connection and intimacy you'll ever get. So don't you please let that define you, because you are still in there and you are beautiful and you have wisdom to share and authenticity and presence to share. I would say yes to a person that perhaps doesn't have their looks anymore, but is so present and so aware and so willing to connect, than someone that has it all, but they have no sense of presence. They don't know who they are. They haven't had the curiosity to ask that fundamental question. Who is the me living or having the experience of living in this world? So strive to have that, and you're the richest person on this planet.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Yes. Wonderful, Gabriela. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the end.
It's a great
That's the end of
question.
our questions. Yeah, it was
That's a great teacher right there. Whoever asked the question is the greatest teacher.
Yes, she's a fantastic advocate with CCSN as well. So very, very important question. Thank you very much for that. So that's the end of our questions, Gabriela. So we're going to end that off there.